Have you ever felt ignored or undervalued, even when you're giving your best? How many times have you found yourself trying to prove your worth, only to feel like nothing changed in the end? It's frustrating, isn't it? But what if I told you that, with a few Stoic-based actions, you can turn the situation around and leave those who don't value you desperate over your transformation? Yes, it might sound counterintuitive, but the truth is, when you stop seeking external validation and adopt a confident, unshakable stance, the game changes completely. In this video, I'll show you 9 powerful actions that will not only strengthen you emotionally, but also change the way you deal with those who don't respect you. Get ready, because by the end, you won't be the same. Curious to know how this is possible? Keep watching and be amazed by the power of Stoicism in your life. Staying silent in moments of provocation can be a powerful tool for those seeking emotional balance. Imagine being in a situation where someone provokes you, expecting an outburst of anger. Instead of reacting impulsively, you choose to say nothing. This silence, often unsettling for those trying to destabilize you, demonstrates unshakable confidence, something Stoicism considers essential. And of course, this confident attitude ends up frustrating the expectations of those who wanted to see you lose control. A practical example of this is when you receive criticism at work. The initial reaction might be to snap back or justify yourself, but by choosing silence, you give yourself the chance to process the information without letting emotions take over. That pause, that choice of silence, gives you a strategic advantage. You respond calmly, without letting the criticism affect your self-esteem. In Stoicism, controlling emotions is a vital skill, and silence is one of the most effective tools to practice it. Life is full of moments where silence speaks louder than any word. Not reacting immediately to provocation can, in many cases, be the best response. This confident stance not only protects you from acting rashly, but also shows emotional maturity. By maintaining composure, you reinforce your Stoic resilience, something that certainly disarms anyone trying to throw you off balance. With that in mind, let's explore the next essential point for dealing with people who don't value you: emotional balance. Emotional balance is, without a doubt, one of the most valuable skills you can develop. In Stoicism, this practice is directly linked to the ability to not react impulsively. When someone provokes you, the first tendency is to let emotions rise and respond in the heat of the moment. However, true strength lies in staying calm and not letting emotions take control of your actions. This is a confident attitude that shows self-control and mastery over the situations that arise daily. Picture an everyday scenario. You're stuck in traffic, already late for an important meeting, and suddenly, someone aggressively cuts you off. The temptation to react is huge, right? But Stoicism teaches us to pause and reflect. This moment of pause allows you to choose how to respond instead of being dominated by instinct. It's a practice that requires training, but over time, you'll realize that not reacting immediately to external chaos strengthens your inner peace. This kind of control doesn't develop overnight, but every small victory counts. For example, when dealing with a difficult coworker, emotional balance becomes your anchor. While the person tries to unsettle you with criticism or comments, you maintain your posture, unaffected. The power here lies in realizing that by choosing your reactions, you keep control of the situation. Moreover, this confident attitude earns respect from others, as it shows you're not easily shaken. Of course, maintaining emotional balance doesn't mean ignoring or repressing your emotions. It means recognizing what you're feeling and deciding how to act based on that awareness. In Stoicism, the key is not letting external factors control your inner self. A practical example is when a family member makes a rude comment during a family lunch. Instead of getting upset or retaliating, you choose not to engage emotionally, keeping your calm. Consistently practicing emotional balance transforms you. People around you, who once tried to provoke you, realize their attempts are futile. Over time, they begin to respect you more, seeing that you're someone who doesn't let situations dominate them. And interestingly, the emotional control you gain benefits you not only in moments of conflict, but in all areas of life. From work negotiations to personal relationships, your ability to remain calm under pressure becomes a competitive advantage. However, it's important to remember that this kind of balance doesn't mean apathy. On the contrary, it's an expression of emotional self-sufficiency. By learning to handle emotions effectively, you don't rely on external validation to feel good about yourself. And that's one of the greatest strengths Stoicism can offer. As a master of your emotions, you become immune to external storms, navigating confidently through any situation. Modern life is full of challenges that test our emotional balance daily. From work pressures to interactions on social media, we are constantly exposed to situations that can destabilize us. The practice of Stoicism reminds us that while we cannot control what happens around us, we can always control how we choose to react. This gives us immense freedom and, at the same time, strengthens our self-esteem. So, how can you start applying this to your life? The next time you feel provoked or pressured, try pausing for a few seconds before responding. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, do I really need to react to this right now? This simple act of reflection begins to cultivate your emotional balance. And over time, you'll see how this confident attitude sets you apart, both in small interactions and major challenges. Throughout this journey, you'll notice that emotional balance also strengthens your relationships. By not reacting impulsively, you create space for more constructive dialogues. This means you can resolve conflicts more effectively without letting emotions take control. And naturally, this skill attracts the respect and admiration of those around you. In fact, emotional balance is a practice that transcends human interactions. It also applies to how we deal with our own thoughts and internal challenges. Often, the biggest battle we face is not with the external world but with ourselves. By learning to stay calm in the face of internal obstacles, you become stronger, more resilient, and better prepared to face whatever comes your way. This journey of developing emotional balance is ongoing, but the benefits are incomparable. Every situation where you practice this skill strengthens you a little more. And over time, you transform into someone who not only reacts calmly and confidently but also inspires others to do the same. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which complements this idea: self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is the key to true emotional freedom. When you cultivate this skill, you no longer depend on others' validation to feel whole. In Stoicism, self-sufficiency is seen as an inner strength that allows us to face life without the need for external approval. Think about the difference this makes. Instead of constantly seeking external recognition, you find satisfaction within yourself. This confident attitude not only strengthens your self-esteem but also completely changes the way you interact with the world. In everyday situations, self-sufficiency is a powerful tool. Imagine, for instance, being in a work environment where recognition is scarce. Many people get frustrated, feeling undervalued, but those who practice Stoicism know their strength doesn't come from the compliments they receive, but from the internal certainty that they are doing their best. This type of confident attitude makes you more resilient, able to move forward even when others don't notice or recognize your worth. Self-sufficiency is also deeply tied to freedom. When you depend less on others to feel good, you gain an emotional freedom that few possess. This means that even when others try to destabilize you, you remain unshaken. In today's world, where we are constantly bombarded by opinions and criticism, this is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. But how do you begin cultivating this self-sufficiency? A practical way is to identify areas in your life where you seek validation. It could be at work, on social media, or even in your personal relationships. By recognizing these points, you start to understand where you are becoming dependent on others' opinions. The next step is simple but powerful. Ask yourself if you really need that validation to feel good. Often, the answer will be no. The process of becoming self-sufficient is a journey. It's not something that happens overnight, but with practice and reflection, you begin to realize that your inner peace doesn't need to be tied to what others think. Self-sufficiency allows you to navigate the ups and downs of life more calmly, without being swayed by criticism or lack of recognition. And that confident attitude, which comes from within, is one of the greatest strengths a person can have. Stoicism teaches us that true strength comes from within. This means that while the outside world is constantly changing, your source of power remains stable. Have you ever thought about the tranquility this brings? Instead of worrying about others' opinions, you focus on developing your own skills, on becoming a better person. Over time, you realize that this makes you immune to both criticism and praise, as both become irrelevant in the face of your self-sufficiency. A practical example of this can be found in your personal relationships. Often, we seek our friends' or partners' recognition of our efforts or praise for our achievements. But as you develop self-sufficiency, you understand that these compliments are just a bonus, not something you depend on to feel fulfilled. This shift in perspective gives you more control over your emotions and allows you to have healthier relationships, where emotional dependency doesn't dominate the scene. Another important aspect of self-sufficiency is that it enhances your decision-making ability. When you're not worried about pleasing others, your choices become more authentic. You feel freer to follow your own path, without fear of judgment or disapproval. In Stoicism, this freedom is essential to living a full and satisfying life. After all, life is yours, and only you can decide what's best for you. Self-sufficiency also protects you from frustration. When you expect others to validate or recognize you, frustration is inevitable. But by understanding that your strength comes from within, that expectation disappears. You become happier, more at peace with yourself, because you know that what really matters is what you think of yourself, not what others say. This concept of self-sufficiency can be applied in various areas of life. In the professional environment, for example, it makes you less susceptible to external pressures. When you trust your own abilities and know you're doing the best you can, others' opinions lose their power. This doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to constructive criticism, but rather that those criticisms don't define your worth. Self-sufficiency is a confident attitude that strengthens you in all areas of life. However, it's important to remember that being self-sufficient doesn't mean being isolated or arrogant. On the contrary, true self-sufficiency comes from a quiet confidence, knowing that while external validation is pleasant, it's not necessary. This confidence allows you to interact with the world in a more balanced way, knowing that you are the primary person responsible for your own happiness and well-being. Finally, self-sufficiency is a continuous journey of self-awareness. As you become more aware of your own needs and emotions, you start to realize that much of what you seek in others is already within you. And with that, you achieve an emotional freedom that allows you to live more fully and authentically. Now that we understand the power of self-sufficiency, let's explore how setting clear boundaries can protect this inner peace. Setting clear boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to protect your inner peace. In Stoicism, this practice is seen as essential to maintaining control over your own life and avoiding letting others make decisions for you. When you create boundaries, you're essentially defining what is acceptable and what is not in your interactions. This not only protects your emotional energy but also sends a clear message. You value yourself enough not to let others invade your personal space. Imagine a situation where a friend or colleague is constantly invading your time and privacy. Without clear boundaries, this person may continue to interrupt your moments of rest or even burden you with unnecessary demands. However, by setting boundaries, you're showing this person that there are rules in the relationship, and they must be respected. This confident attitude not only strengthens your sense of self-sufficiency, but also improves the quality of your relationships. Boundaries are also a form of self-care. When you say no to something you know will bring you more stress or strain, you're prioritizing your well-being. In Stoicism, this is a practical attitude to avoid external factors controlling your emotional state. Often, we feel guilty for setting boundaries, especially in close relationships. But it's important to remember that these boundaries aren't meant to push others away, but rather to ensure you have space to care for yourself and maintain your peace. Setting clear boundaries also protects you from manipulation. When people know exactly how far they can go with you, they're less likely to try to push those limits. This applies both in the workplace and in personal relationships. A practical example might be when a colleague tries to shift their responsibilities onto you. If you don't have clear boundaries, you might end up accepting those tasks, even knowing it will overwhelm you. But by defining what is acceptable, you avoid such situations. One effective way to start setting boundaries is through assertive communication. Often, the fear of displeasing others leads us to accept more than we should. However, by learning to express your boundaries clearly and respectfully, you reinforce your own confidence and show others that your needs are also important. For example, if someone always tries to schedule commitments during your rest time, you can gently but firmly say, "I prefer not to schedule anything during that time, as it's my moment of rest." Boundaries also bring an additional benefit. They improve the quality of your interactions. When others know how far they can go, relationships become healthier and more respectful. This is because you make clear what you expect and what you are willing to offer. However, it's important to remember that setting boundaries doesn't mean being inflexible or rigid. On the contrary, flexibility is part of the process, but always within the limits you consider acceptable. Another essential point is that by setting boundaries, you're not only protecting yourself but also teaching others how to behave around you. Often, people don't realize they're crossing boundaries because those boundaries haven't been clearly defined. So, when you clearly define your expectations, you're helping others understand what you consider appropriate and what's not acceptable. The resistance many people have in setting boundaries often stems from the fear of losing others' approval. However, the truth is that boundaries, when well established, generate more respect than rejection. People tend to admire those who know what they want and aren't afraid to express it. Moreover, boundaries help prevent resentment, as you don't feel exploited or undervalued. Setting clear boundaries is also a way to cultivate self-sufficiency. When you know what's important to you and act accordingly, you become less dependent on external approval. This is deeply tied to Stoicism, which teaches that true strength comes from within and that we should always protect our inner peace. One of the best ways to do this is by setting healthy boundaries. Finally, it's worth noting that boundaries are dynamic and can change over time. What was acceptable to you a few years ago might not be anymore. Therefore, it's important to review and adjust your boundaries as you evolve. This ensures that your relationships remain healthy and that you stay in harmony with yourself. Now that we understand the importance of setting boundaries, let's explore the value of patience as an essential virtue. Patience is one of the most underrated virtues in the modern world, but in Stoicism, it's seen as an essential skill for those seeking emotional balance and resilience. In the fast-paced world we live in, waiting seems almost like an impossible challenge, but the truth is that time can be your greatest ally. Patience doesn't mean resignation or passivity. It means knowing how to act at the right moment, with strategy and confidence. It's the ability to control anxiety and impulsiveness to make wiser decisions. Imagine a situation where you're waiting for a promotion at work. You know you're qualified, but the opportunity seems to take forever. Impatience might lead you to make rash decisions, like changing jobs without thinking about the consequences. However, Stoicism teaches that patience, in this case, could be your greatest advantage. Waiting for the right moment to act, whether by asking for a promotion or accepting new opportunities, reflects an inner control that few can maintain. This confident attitude that patience provides also applies to everyday situations. Think about how you handle queues, delays, and small annoyances of daily life. Many lose their cool, become irritated, and let these situations affect their mood. But Stoicism reminds us that we cannot control time or external events, only our reaction to them. By practicing patience, you show that you're not at the mercy of the chaos around you, but rather in control of how you deal with it. A practical example of patience is seen in finance. Imagine you started investing, and at the beginning, you don't see the expected results. The temptation to withdraw the money and seek quick alternatives can be strong. However, patience is essential for reaping long-term rewards. Those who have the vision to wait and trust the process often reap greater rewards than those who act impulsively. In Stoicism, this control over time and emotions is a demonstration of strength and wisdom. Another important aspect of patience is that it allows you to see things from a broader perspective. When we're impatient, we tend to focus only on the short term, forgetting the bigger picture. By exercising patience, you develop the ability to see beyond immediate obstacles understanding that everything has its time and place. This brings a deep sense of calm, allowing you to face challenges with more clarity and less stress. Patience is also a valuable tool in personal relationships. How many times have we acted impulsively in arguments, only to regret it later? By practicing patience, you give yourself and others the time necessary to process emotions and find more balanced solutions. This doesn't mean you should tolerate unacceptable behavior, but that you can choose when and how to respond, maintaining control of the situation. It's interesting to note that the more you practice patience, the more confident you become in your decisions. This happens because, by waiting for the right moment, you act with more clarity and purpose, rather than being driven by haste or fear. This confidence, combined with patience, is one of the most remarkable traits of those who adopt Stoicism as a philosophy of life. However, cultivating patience requires practice. In a world where we are constantly stimulated to seek quick results, it's easy to fall into the trap of impatience. A practical tip to exercise this virtue is to start small. The next time you feel impatient, take a deep breath and ask yourself, does this really need to be resolved now? Often, the answer will be no. And this simple pause can make a huge difference in your reaction. Patience also teaches us to value the process. We are so focused on the end result that we often forget to appreciate the journey toward it. But by adopting a more patient mindset, you learn to see value in each step, understanding that time is an ally, not an enemy. This change in perspective brings more peace and satisfaction along the way. Finally, it's worth remembering that patience is a skill that improves over time. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. And in time, you'll realize that those who have patience are the ones who reap the greatest rewards. Now that we understand the value of patience as a virtue, let's explore how gratitude can transform the way we deal with criticism. Gratitude has a transformative power in relationships, and in Stoicism, it is seen as a powerful tool for maintaining inner peace, even in challenging situations. When you respond to criticism with gratitude instead of frustration, something magical happens. The dynamic of the interaction changes completely. The person who expected a negative reaction is disarmed, while you, with a confident attitude, maintain emotional control. Gratitude, in this context, becomes a shield that protects your self-esteem and prevents criticism from affecting you destructively. Imagine you're receiving tough feedback at work. The natural response for many would be to feel offended or defensive. But Stoicism invites us to view criticism as a learning opportunity. By expressing gratitude for the feedback, even if it initially seems unfair, you position yourself from a place of strength. This gratitude doesn't mean you accept everything that was said. It simply shows that you recognize the opportunity to reflect and grow. It demonstrates a rare emotional maturity and a sense of self-sufficiency that many admire. Gratitude also helps us notice what often goes unnoticed. Instead of focusing solely on what's lacking or the negative aspects of the feedback, you start to see the small blessings in everyday life. In Stoicism, this practice is a way to train your mind to focus on what's within your control and the positives, rather than getting consumed by external criticism. This not only shields you from negative thoughts, but also gives you a sense of peace and contentment. The truth is, the more you practice gratitude, the more confident you become. This happens because you start acknowledging your worth and accomplishments, rather than constantly seeking external approval. A practical example would be someone who, upon receiving criticism about their performance, chooses to thank the person for the opportunity to improve. This not only shows emotional control, but also a confident attitude of someone who understands that growth is continuous and that every critique can be an opportunity for refinement. Additionally, gratitude has a surprising effect on those around you. When you respond with gratitude, even in difficult situations, you create a lighter and more positive environment. People begin to see you as someone who doesn't get easily shaken, and this inspires respect. By practicing gratitude, you not only strengthen your own stoic resilience, but also positively influence those you interact with. However, it's important to remember that gratitude is not a passive practice. It requires a conscious effort to shift your perspective in various situations. When something doesn't go as planned, or when you face harsh criticism, Choosing to be grateful for the learning experience is a demonstration of inner strength. This confident attitude puts you in control of your emotions, regardless of external circumstances. Gratitude is also an excellent way to avoid resentment. Often, we hold grudges over words or actions that hurt us, but Stoicism teaches us that resentment only harms ourselves. By choosing gratitude, you dissolve that resentment before it can grow, preserving your inner peace and keeping your relationships healthier. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse, but it does mean choosing how you react emotionally, safeguarding your serenity. Another valuable aspect of gratitude is that it shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. Instead of fixating on what's missing or what was criticized, you begin to notice all you've already accomplished and what's going well. This gives you more confidence to face future challenges, knowing that even when things don't go as expected, there's always something to be grateful for. This mindset differentiates a confident attitude from a defensive posture. Gratitude also strengthens your resilience. When you can thank life for the lessons, even in difficulties, you're training your mind to see the positive side in every situation. This stoic resilience becomes your ally in moments of crisis, allowing you to stay calm and clear-headed while others might be panicking. Instead of being shaken by criticism or setbacks, you see every challenge as an opportunity for growth. Finally, gratitude is a cycle. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes, and the more naturally it arises. Over time, you'll notice that the criticisms and challenges that used to destabilize you become less and less impactful. Your confident attitude, fueled by gratitude, gives you an emotional advantage that many envy. Now that we understand the power of gratitude, let's explore stoic resilience and how it can make you unbreakable in the face of adversity. Resilience is one of the most defining traits of those who adopt Stoicism as a life philosophy. It represents the ability to remain steady in the face of adversity without losing emotional balance. In Stoicism, resilience is not just the ability to endure but to thrive even in difficulties. This capability confounds those who try to destabilize you because instead of reacting with despair, you remain calm, serene, and unbreakable. Imagine a situation where you face a significant challenge at work, something that threatens to destabilize your career or reputation. While many around you might panic or be consumed by anxiety, you, with a confident and stoic attitude, choose to confront the problem head-on. Stoic resilience allows you not only to deal with the obstacle but to use it as an opportunity for growth. Every difficulty, from this perspective, is a chance to further strengthen your ability to overcome adversities. This resilience doesn't appear out of nowhere. It is cultivated through the continuous practice of emotional control and a broader perspective on life. A classic example of this can be seen in high-performance athletes. They train daily not only to improve their skills but also to withstand the pressure and inevitable losses that come with competition. The resilience they develop throughout this process sets them apart, allowing them to come back even stronger after a defeat. Similarly, in everyday life, stoic resilience can be applied to many areas. From health problems to financial difficulties, those who adopt a stoic stance towards these challenges can maintain calmness and clarity of thought. This is because they understand that adversities are a part of life and that the true test of strength lies not in avoiding problems but in how you handle them when they arise. One of the most effective ways to cultivate this resilience is through mental preparation. Stoicism teaches us to hope for the best but also to prepare for the worst. This doesn't mean being pessimistic but rather being realistic. By accepting that difficulties may arise, you emotionally prepare yourself to deal with them more effectively. A practical example would be starting a new project. Instead of believing that everything will go perfectly, you prepare for possible obstacles, which gives you more strength to face them when they appear. Stoic resilience is also deeply tied to acceptance. When you accept that you cannot control everything that happens around you, you release an immense emotional weight. This acceptance is not the same as giving up, but is rather a form of wisdom. By accepting what's beyond your control, you focus your energy on what can be changed and improved. This shift in focus gives you more power over your own life, enabling you to face challenges more effectively. Another important point about stoic resilience is that it is an ongoing practice. It's not enough to be resilient in one situation and expect that to be enough. Life constantly presents new challenges, and it's essential to cultivate this ability in every area of life. At work, in personal relationships, in projects, and even in dreams, Stoic resilience gives you the ability to keep going, even when the path seems difficult. Moreover, Stoic resilience brings with it a sense of inner peace. When you know that you can handle whatever comes your way without losing your composure, a deep calm settles in. This doesn't mean you won't feel emotions like fear or frustration, but rather that those emotions don't control you. Instead, you acknowledge them and move forward, confident in your ability to overcome any obstacle. Resilience also makes you a more flexible person. Life rarely follows a linear path, and those who are rigid in their expectations tend to suffer more when things don't go as planned. But Stoic resilience teaches you to adapt, to change direction when necessary, without losing focus on the ultimate goal. This adaptability allows you not just to survive, but to thrive amid change and uncertainty. Ultimately, Stoic resilience is one of the greatest demonstrations of inner strength a person can have. When you are not easily shaken, those around you begin to notice this strength and draw inspiration from it. You become an example of how to face life's storms without losing control or hope. Over time, this resilience makes you unbreakable, ready for any challenge life may throw your way. Now, let's explore how brutal honesty can be a powerful tool for building stronger and more authentic relationships. Brutal honesty is a powerful practice that, though uncomfortable at times, creates an environment of trust and respect in your interactions. In Stoicism, being honest is not just a matter of moral principles, but also a way to ensure that your words and actions align with the truth. When you practice brutal honesty, whether in praise or criticism, you remove the masks we often wear to avoid conflict or please others. This transparency strengthens your relationships, even if it initially causes awkwardness. Imagine a situation where a friend asks for your opinion on something important, like a career decision or a personal project. Often, the temptation is to soften the truth to avoid hurting their feelings. However, by practicing brutal honesty, you choose to be direct, even if it causes momentary discomfort. In doing so, you are showing respect for your friend, trusting that they can handle the truth. Over time, they will learn to value this frankness, knowing that you are someone they can rely on for genuine advice. Brutal honesty is also an effective tool for avoiding misunderstandings and resentment. When we are transparent from the start, we prevent false expectations from forming. For example, if you are honest about your limitations on a work project, you prevent your colleague or boss from expecting something you can't deliver. This clarity from the beginning might seem harsh, but it's essential to maintain the integrity of relationships, avoiding future frustrations. However, being brutally honest doesn't mean being rude or disrespectful. The key is to find a balance between truth and empathy. When you criticize someone, the goal is not to hurt, but to help that person grow. A practical example would be a leader who, while giving feedback to an employee, chooses to be direct about the areas that need improvement but does so constructively, showing how these changes can benefit their professional growth. This confident attitude shows that you value the truth but also care about the other person's development. In Stoicism, brutal honesty is a way to maintain your inner peace. When you are honest with yourself and others, there is no room for regrets or doubts. You know you did what was right, even if the truth caused temporary discomfort. And this clarity gives you unshakable serenity because you don't have to carry the weight of lies or half-truths. This creates a confident attitude, where you act according to your principles, regardless of how others may react. Additionally, brutal honesty strengthens your relationships, especially those closest to you. When you are frank with the people you love, you create a space where trust can flourish. They know they can count on you to tell the truth, and this establishes a stronger bond. However, it's important to remember that honesty should always be accompanied by respect. Criticizing someone without considering their feelings is not honesty. It's cruelty. Stoicism teaches that the truth must be spoken, but in a way that promotes growth, not pain. Brutal honesty is also an excellent way to protect yourself from unrealistic expectations. When we are clear about who we are and what we can offer, the people around us adjust their expectations accordingly. This means you don't have to live trying to please others or fit into molds that don't align with your reality. An example would be being honest about your priorities in a personal relationship, making it clear from the beginning what you expect and what you can offer. This avoids future frustrations and keeps the relationship healthier. Another benefit of brutal honesty is that it saves time and energy. How many times have we been involved in long discussions or complicated situations because we weren't upfront from the start? By adopting a stance of frankness, you eliminate unnecessary drama, as people know exactly what to expect from you. This creates a more efficient environment and, paradoxically, a lighter one because the truth, though heavy at times, brings simplicity and clarity. The practice of brutal honesty also challenges you to be more honest with yourself. Often, we have difficulty admitting our flaws, weaknesses, or fears. But by adopting this posture of unconditional truth, you begin to see yourself more clearly. And this is fundamental to personal growth. When you acknowledge your limitations, you can work on them more effectively instead of pretending they don't exist. Finally, brutal honesty is one of the most powerful tools for creating relationships based on trust and mutual respect. When you are honest, the people around you learn to trust your word, knowing that you will always speak the truth, even when it's hard to hear. And over time, this creates a network of stronger and more authentic relationships. Now that we've explored the power of brutal honesty, let's conclude our journey with a reflection on the value of these attitudes in transforming your relationships and your life. Now that you're familiar with these 9 powerful attitudes, what are you waiting for to apply them to your life? You've seen how Stoicism can transform your relationships and strengthen your self-esteem. But none of this will have an effect if you don't put it into practice. The big question is, are you willing to become the person who no longer needs external validation? Someone who, with a confident attitude, disarms any provocation and earns the respect of everyone around them? So, start today. Choose one of these attitudes and implement it right now. How would your life be if you could maintain emotional control, set your boundaries, and respond with gratitude? Think about the impact this would have on all your relationships. And remember, this is just the beginning. If you want to continue learning how to develop your resilience, self-sufficiency, and confidence, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss any content. Together, let's continue on this journey of transformation.